escuches y esta canción.
¡Que vivan los cuentos! ¡Que viva! ¡Que viva la gente de Taos! ¡Que viva! Thank you all so much for being here. I know everybody's trickling in. There's about 4 or 5 seats in the front, and so please don't be shy. Come and have a seat up front. And I just want to give our warm welcome to the 2nd annual Community Storytelling event. Thank you. Well, my name is Olivia Romo, and I'm on the board of directors for SOMOS.
Thank you, Olivia. Okay, I have to remember I met Olivia in 2009 because she was on the high school slam team. And the Taos High School slam team was epic in those days. And who knew that SOMOS would be lucky enough to have her as a board member for the past 3 years. You got 3 more though. So welcome to everybody to our 25th annual Storytelling Festival. So thank you to the Talpa Community Center. Lovely stuff. And thank you to New Mexico Arts, to New Mexico Humanities Council, to, I'm not really sure what label I should use, New Mexico True, or what, is that, shall I use that one? Okay. New Mexico True, who's involved this year in our festival, they actually approached us, which is pretty awesome. And they're going to be they're going to come to each event. Also, we have a few businesses and individuals who also help support this weekend. Los Rios River Runners, that's of course Cisco. Desert Flower Boutique Hotel. It's a relatively new place in the south end of town, and they donated a room for one of our tellers. Then we also have Casa Gallina, which is run by Matt Thomas and Richard Spera. And then we also have Nighthawk Press, which is a local press, and Rebecca Lenzini used to be a board member for SOMOS. Then we also have one of our major donors is the Virginia Wellington Cabot Foundation out of Boston. Kathleen Fitzgerald, who used to be also one of our board members, sponsors us to receive some funds to help with the Storytelling Festival. And then some individuals that we have that have either donated a room or some service are Jamie Donnelly, Maria Garcia, and Jocelyn Harper. So let's give all of them a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Jen. And I hope all of you consider attending this weekend some of the workshops and the events. So this is just the warm-up, as Jen was saying. So just to ground us, you know, it is Friday the 13th, and I haven't seen La Llorona or Cucuy coming yet. But I have, with the support of our storytellers, we have put together this beautiful centering altar. And people have brought some photos of their relatives, and this is an opportunity just for us to ground the space and have some maíz, some water from the acequia, some seed balls. So I'm just gonna light the candles so we can, you know, get started and get grounded. Vamos todos. So let's just take a moment to acknowledge that here on the land that we stand is the original homeland of the Red Willow people, and that this is the San Cristobal de la Serna land grant. And may we all be good visitors and just hold the intentions of our heart that the Rio Grande del Rancho and the Rio Chiquito have sustained this community for hundreds of years. And that we just acknowledge First Peoples, our seeds, our water, and most importantly, our stories. And the people who may not be here today, that we inherited those stories. And the power and the nutrients that they give us, and the life, and how it shapes our identity. Being Tauseña and growing up here, I firmly feel the love and the strength of my people because of the stories that have been passed down to me. So I want to share all that beauty and that love with all of you tonight, and that we may we remember that. So thank you for joining us. I am very excited to have you all here today. And so let us celebrate the legacies of those who came before us, pay homage. And just remember that the time of the solar eclipse is also a symbol of endings and clean slates and new beginnings. So let us just take some time to be in solitude, and if we can take a moment of silence just to remember maybe the loved ones that can't be here with you today, or a story that you have that you're going to hold in your heart this evening. So if we can just have a moment of silence to honor our ancestors, the land and water, and all of the people who came before us. Thank you so much. So if you came in bailando and with a smile, it's because we had Miss Maggie giving us some música. So I just want to formally introduce her with a round of applause. So that's Miss Maggie Vigil. She was born here in Taos in the community of Los Cordobas. Maggie has always been known throughout Taos to always be carrying her guitarra in school, and for her incredible voice and all the joy that she brings to the community with her songs. She first released her album Por la Primera Vez in 2017. She's a proud single mother of 2 sons who works full-time but has never lost the sight for the passion of her music. So we'll hear lots of música from Miss Maggie today.
Thank you.
So the first storyteller that I want to bring to the stage is Miss Elena Arguello.
Right.
She was also born and raised here in Taos into a culture and family that has used cuentos, dichos to entertain, communicate, and teach. In 1971, she received her Bachelor's of Arts degree in Business Management from Stephen Hangar College in Salt Lake City, Utah. She worked in the baking industry until she returned to Taos in 1973. She co-owned and co-operated a weaving shop in Taos Plaza, instituted and operated an arts and crafts program for ancianos in 1979 through 1981. Elena also directed the Hispanic Arts Council of Taos for a year and a half. She owned and managed a holistic health clinic called East West Chiropractic and Acupuncture for 16 years. Later, she was recruited by Taos County Economic Development Corps as a food business specialist. Elena believes storytelling is a wonderful way to educate, communicate, and entertain for our children and grandchildren. And so if you come to the Talpa Community Center, you know that Elena's selling her comida, as long as our compadre Miguel. And so before she comes to the stage, I just want to remind you all that our storytellers tonight are selling some of their merchandise in the back. So Miguel has some chile to sell, and we have Joanna Trujillo's books, who you'll hear from later this evening, and some CDs. So if you enjoy the artists tonight, please support them. And without further ado, I bring Elena to the stage.
want me to hold on to that? Ay, Diosito, I talk with my hands, so this might be a little difficult. My first story I'm going to tell you is my disclaimer. So I got a text or an email from Olivia. And last year I missed the storytelling. I was so excited that I said, yes, I'll be there. And then I read the whole thing. It said featured storyteller. What? Why? But I had already committed, so here I am. So that's my disclaimer, okay? It is Friday the 13th, and we are in Talpa. And the significance of being Friday the 13th is that witches have the most power on Fridays. And Friday the 13th is also a much more powerful day. That we're in Talpa is significant because
The brujas de Talpa.
the brujas de Talpa. I don't know how they got that distinction, but I know that there is a story about a woman named Rosa that apparently was embrujada. And that's what I'm going to tell you about today. Beautiful young woman from Ranchos, Pusdionde, who fell in love or actually caught the eye of a young man from Talpa. Right? So as the tradition was, when a couple decided that they had that le había llenado los ojos, that he had filled his eyes with her beauty, they were going to ask for her hand in marriage. And so the family wrote the formal letter requesting her hand in marriage, hoping that they wouldn't get calabazas, and that they would get, right? Le dieron calabazas. They did not get calabazas. They got an acceptance. And so Rosa and the young man, whose name was Amarante, were going to get married. They got the families together to set a date. And so the parents of Amarante and the parents of Rosa had a formal dinner in which they talked about the boda and when that was going to be. Wonderful evening. Everybody got along really, really well. Joy, love, and apparently peace. Very happy. But then Rosa fell ill. First, just listless, achy, pain, sadness. Weren't really sure what was going on with her. But they prayed. And David, who was Rosa's father, prayed very, very hard. And Utimia, who was Rosa's mother, prayed very, very hard. But she continued to get ill. They gave her all the remedios. They brought her gota. They bought her osha. They bought her all the herbs that they could think of. No le estaban haciendo nada bien. She continued to get worse. There was a suspicion that something evil was amidst. That something was not just a cold or an illness or a virus that she picked up. Something evil was at play, but why? Who? What could have happened? We don't know. Well, they went to the priest. They had a blessing, but Rosa continued to get ill. She'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming in pain for no reason that they could think of. It continued for days, and then weeks, and then one morning, her sisters, Soveda and Ignacia, walk into the room, and all of Rosa's hair, her beautiful, long, bellowing black hair, is tied to the bedpost, strand by strand, one by one, in knots that they can't undo. They know. Something evil is at play. Something has happened, and they don't know how to deal with this. So they go to the priest, and the priest says, no, we can't do anything. You must pray. And so they pray. And Rosa continues to be ill, and the family is lamenting. And Amarante is beside himself. His beautiful Rosa is so ill that he's worried that he's going to lose her. But as was the tradition, and as would happen in this valley, a band of turcas, gypsies, were coming around, okay? Gypsies travel through this town probably twice a year in the spring, selling their goods, telling their fortunes, and rumor had it they would steal your children. Mostly parents would give them the children to try and sell them. And if you've had a couple that you might want to have, they would take advantage of that. So the turca comes to David and Utimia's house and says, "La puedo curar. I know what to do and I can help your daughter." But she needed $25. This was in the early 1900s. $25? That was so much money. How could they manage this? But Utimia relented. They would sell the bodegas. They would make sure that they sold all their eggs. She would make quesos so that they could raise the money to pay the turca or the cura. And so it was arranged. The gypsy had some instructions for the family. They should have a room, one room, where they would take all the furniture out except for a bed, a wood stove, a pot of water, some atole, a chair for her, and wood, cedar and pine, and the door was locked. The instructions were, you do not come in. I will open the door when the deed is done, when Rosa is well, when I have performed the healing. And apparently if that was not going to happen, she would have stayed in there with Rosa, I guess. But nonetheless, they made that arrangement. They could not open the door, no matter what they heard, no matter what they smelled, and no matter what they saw. And so Rosa and the gypsy woman were enclosed in this room for the cura. First day, quiet. They heard nothing. Second day, nada. Quiet. And Utimia had her ear to the door. Nada. But the third day they start hearing howling. And they get a whiff of this foul smell. And they hear banging. And they hear Rosa crying for help. Ayúdame, mamá, ayúdame, papa, ven, ayúdame. Utimia was ready to knock down that door. That's Rosa's mama. And David stopped her and said, oh no, this is what you asked for. This is what you agreed to. We will have to let it play out. And so Utimia and Soledad, Rosa's sister, and Ignacia sat at the door and prayed and prayed. And they heard these foul sounds and the smell that was so rank that they would put Vicks on their nose just to try and be able to sit there. 6 days they were in there. And then the door opened. And there was Rosa sitting on the bed eating atole. The poor gypsy woman looked like she had been drugged through heaven knows where. But it wasn't heaven. Rosa was confused. Why was he in there? What had happened? And so the family took her, and she was bathed, and her hair was done. She was just happy and joyous. And the turca told the family that she would show them who had done the mal in the ashes of the fire of the fogon. And so she took the pail of ashes and put them outside in the ground and passed her hands over. And again, and more, and a face appeared. And the face was of Amarante's aunt, who had raised him, who had loved him, who had attended the dinner for the family. Amarante was so heartbroken, but still was going to marry Rosa. Now the other gift that she sold to the family, to Rosa, the gypsy woman sold, was a cross on a golden chain that went across her neck in protection. Now, Rosa never took this chain off. When I was in my 20s, I went to visit my tia Rosa in Utah. They had moved to Utah to leave Taos to get away from this woman who had, que le había hecho mal. I was curious. I wanted to know, was it true? Could I see that cross travel around my tia's neck? And so I asked her. And when I asked her, her eyes lit up in a smile that was just so sweet. And she sat very poised as she pulled down her top. And there was a little cross on a little chain, a golden chain. And she said, cuida, cuida, no te muevas. So I watched. I did not see that cross move. However, it was now there. I did not see that cross move, and now it was here. I did not see that cross move, and it was here. The cross went around, motionless, but it traveled around. My tia Rosa wore that chain until the death of that evil tia of Amarantes. And when that woman died, they came in joy to the family, to Taos. They took that cross. My tia finally was able to take the little chain off, and they took it to the church, and they buried it on consecrated ground at the church of here in Ranchos. ¿Creen?
Aquí llegaron los Pumas de Talpa, ¿no? Ahora, now it's Friday the 13th. Thank you so much. I just ask also, please, if you have your cell phones on, please put them on silent or turn them off so we can really experience the stories of our beautiful storytellers. So thank you, Elena. Our next storyteller is Miguel Santistevan from Cañón. Miguel. Miguel has his Bachelor's of Science in Biology from the University of New Mexico and has a Master's of Science in Ecology from the University of California, Davis. So he's not just locotote, but he's smartote. His research interests are food systems in traditional acequia irrigated and dry land agricultural systems of the upper Rio Grande and the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. Santistevan is certified in permaculture and xeriscape design and has directed several youth and agricultural programs. He has dozens of publications in local papers like the Green Fire Times and has delivered professional presentations to meetings of the Pioneers, the Green Festival, and the International Ethnobiology Congress. He produced a public radio program called Que Vivan las Acequias! The New Mexico Acequia Association and KCEI-FM radio here in Taos County. He and his beautiful wife, right here, Margarita, and his hija, your they maintain their acequia irrigated permaculture farm in Taos called Sol Feliz, where many visitors have participated in educational presentations, tours, and hands-on workshops. His farm is the venue for much of his research on crop adaptation and is sustained by la Acequia Madre del Sur del Río Don Fernando de Taos. He is a parciante and has served both as a mayordomo and the presidente. Santistevan is a teacher, he's a storyteller, a musician, and an amazing poet. I give it up to Miguel.
you. So it's good to be here. This is a different kind of thing for me. Of course, I was at the market today and you said, you're a storyteller. I said, well, actually, I'm going to be telling a story tonight. And I feel like I have a lot of stories. I've told stories, but I've never done anything like this. You heard in my bio, I do all kinds of professional presentations. And I know how to prepare for those. All academic and informational. And then, so how do I prepare for something like this? I was told it was about our stories, our ancestors, where we're from. And right away, my grandma came to my mind. My grandma was a fierce woman. And I have some good stories about her. So I thought I would share that story. And then they told me to bring a picture. So there she is in front of the drum with my tia Virginia, who's also, she lived to be 140 years old. And I actually, my cousin Andres Vargas wrote some about her, another fierce woman. And they told me to bring a picture and put her on the altar, so I did, and now they lit a candle. So now I feel like my grandma's here. And I'm going to tell this story. So, Grandma, I hope I do this story and you justice, and everyone else involved. I don't mean to offend anybody, this house is a small community, you never know. Don't be over here, Malo, I got a shot in my pocket. And, so I don't play like that. But, so yeah, my grandma was fierce. She was actually, our familia was from here since time immemorial, but she was born in Clayton, of all places. So as I looked into it, I was like, why was she born in Clayton? And then, I did all kinds of research, and especially because my cousin Andres Vargas wrote this book about Cañon and about his mom. And it turns out, we're coming from some serious shepherds, sheep herding traditions. So we used to herd our own sheep in our land grants, but then our land grants were stolen. And we started working for the big sheep operations. So that's how my uncle and specifically now my great-grandfather, Gavino Vargas, was running big sheep in the plains by Clayton. So my grandma was born out there. Then eventually they came back to Taos. My grandma was the youngest of 12 children. There was actually 14. But 2 of them were given up because back in those days, some families had kids and other families couldn't have children. And so, that kind of thing went on. So I always wondered, how did a Chicano like me end up with a cousin named Graham? And then I found out, that my tio Mike, my tio Miguel Antonio, who I'm actually named after, actually I wasn't named after him, it was just a really weird coincidence. But, my tio Mike ended up with the Grahams. And, but my grandma was the youngest. And my grandpa Gavino, great-grandpa, was always on the bodega, herding sheep either out in the plains or up in Montana. And left my grandma and all the kids alone with my great-grandma Elena. And my grandma, they were often alone. And then tragically, my grandma was about to graduate from high school, and her mother died. And it was a big deal. My grandma always talked about it, how she always wanted her mom to be at the graduation. And then her mom died, and her dad was out on the bodega, and it was hard to get information. So my grandma, had to figure all this out. And then she talks about this nice lady who actually bought my grandma a dress and shoes for her graduation. And my grandma graduated, and she would talk about how she spent many nights in terror with her next older brother, my tio Martin, which if you're from here, he owned Los Compadres. He was a restaurant guy, and but she would talk. She loved her brothers. Her brothers could do nothing wrong because her brothers were there for her when her mom was gone, and then her dad was also gone, but her mom was like really gone. But so that's the kind of grandma that she was. You know, she was really independent, and then she even went to college. She got a degree in education, and in those days, women didn't do that. You know, so my grandma was educated, very self-sufficient, very professional. She even went to Highlands. My mom would talk about going to Highlands University, you know, with my grandma as a young child, and my grandma was going for her master's. I don't think she ever got it, but because of that, my mom got a master's, and I was going to give up at a bachelor's, but my mom wouldn't let me because she said, you know, your grandma got a master's, I got a master's. What makes you think you're done with education? You know? So I had to go get a master's too, at least. But, so yeah, that's how deep education ran in our family. You know, my grandma was a teacher for 40 years in this community. Some people here, you know, a lot of people, yeah, thank you. You know, a lot of people know me because of my grandma. As soon as I mention my grandma, Simonita Trujillo, they go, oh, she was my teacher.
Yeah.
You know, she was mean. But, you know, she taught us, and, you know, we learned, and I named my daughter after her, you know, my grandma Simonita, and she was fierce. So to tell you about her fierceness, you know, she's a teacher of 40 years, and we had strong neighbors then. I was looking for a picture. I have another picture that was taken that same day with Mana Charlie, Carlota Mares, in the kitchen. And it was said, you know, Carlota Mares was such a fierce woman that if you were running for politics and you didn't go have coffee with Mana Charlie, you were going to lose. If you had any chance of winning in politics in Taos, you had to go and have coffee with Carlota Mares, Mana Charlie, and if she liked you, you had a chance. And if you didn't have coffee with her, you didn't have a chance at all. Well, you know, my Mana Charlie, she was my next door neighbor, and, you know, her house was always open. There was always fresh tortillas. You ever seen a woman who had forearms bigger than, like, most men's legs? Yeah. This woman had some arms because she was kneading bread every day. And if she got a hold of you and you were doing mine, you'll never do it again. So that was Mana Charlie. So my grandma was visiting with Mana Charlie, and there's me and my brother playing in front of the acequias. And interestingly, I had no concept of the acequia when I was little. In fact, I would always get in trouble because I used to like to build dams. I was like a civil engineer. Build these big old dams and flood everything out and get all excited until my Romo shows up. But usually I was gone by then and somebody else had to do with it. But yeah, so me and my brother are playing there by the acequia, you know, we're just having a good time. My grandma's visiting with Mana Charlie, and here comes this man up the road that I've never seen. So who is this guy? He's coming up the road and he comes to the house, and right at that moment, my grandma comes out of Mana Charlie's. So, you know, this guy came up the road with some purpose, but now that he saw my grandma, he really had a purpose. So he marches over and he meets my grandma on the bridge. There's a bridge between, in a little trail from my grandma's, which is now my house, from the back door across the bridge to Mana Charlie's. Mana Charlie was the only one I knew had a second story. And actually it was like a basement with a 1.5 story, but she had her 12 kids in the basement. None of them could be without her them passing her door, so she's doing it. Nevertheless, we still had Bobby and Chen and Freddie and all the locals of the neighborhood, but still they had tortillas every day and had respect at least. But yeah, so my grandma's coming out and here comes this man, and they meet at the bridge. And the man gets to the bridge first, and he's there. Me and my brother are there playing with our Hot Wheels. We used to like to drive cars and make little cities and all that stuff. Must have been about 8 years old, I think, maybe 8 or 9. It was the late 70s. And so they're out playing cars there. And we're playing, and then this guy comes up to my grandma with this look of determination. He says, someone's been stealing the water. And she's all, oh, de veras. And he's all, yeah. And you know, when I got this job of mayordomo, they told me to watch out for your husband Samuel, because he's known to steal the water. I don't know if this guy knew, but my grandpa Samuel was actually ill. And he was in bed. And we didn't know at the time, but he had cancer and he was terminal. And maybe we did know, but I didn't know. But I think the familia knew, and of course my grandma. So that guy tells my grandma like that. So here comes the fierceness. I see my grandma turn red, like in the cartoon. Smoke comes out of her ears. And out of nowhere, like lightning, she goes, bah! And he goes flying backwards into the acequia. And he's on his back struggling with water. And he gets out. He's all flustered and he tries to wipe his face, and now he has blood on his face. If I wasn't fearing for the safety of my grandma, you know, I might have thought it was funny. But right away I grabbed a rock. I was like, if this guy comes at my grandma, it's over. But no, my grandma goes looking, and he gets up and he's still standing there. The water's going, and he's all freaked out, and my grandma says, how dare you? How dare you come and talk to me like that? My husband is ill and he's never stolen the water. You get out of here before I really hurt you. And he turns around in a big old huff, and then he turns around on his way out and he says, you haven't seen the last of me. And she says, whatever. Well, then my grandma gets a court summons. Assault and battery. My Romo's a commissioner, eh? You know, it's like hitting a cop. I was kidding. So then, yeah, you hope. And then, so then they go to court. There's my grandma. Yeah, I didn't talk about my grandma. My grandma had one weekly trip to the beauty shop. And her hair was perfect. She would spray it. And do they even make this anymore? She had hair tape. They make this? She had hair tape. Every night she would tape her hair into place. And then put a thing on it. And then she would go to sleep very carefully on her pillows that were stacked just right. She couldn't go anywhere. It had to be her perfect pillows with the right altitude. To maintain the perfect shape. And yeah, so there she is, you know, with her perfect hair to perfect blouse. You know, my grandma dead, right? Sunday best every day, not church on Sunday, church every day. And so there they are in court. And you know, my grandma, of course, she's a teacher of 40 years. So she knew lawyers. And she got a lawyer, and they're there in the court. Lo and behold, the judge was a past student of my grandma. So here they go reading the case. And the judge says, Bob, how do I do that? I've heard enough. This shouldn't even be in my courtroom. This is a disgrace. How dare you talk to Mrs. Trujillo like that? You're lucky I wasn't there. Case dismissed. that was my grandma. Here.
Don't mess with the viejitas, man. We're pushing weight that's soft. They'll keep you on your toes. Bien picosas. Oh yeah. I love that. Thank you, Miguel, so much. Okay, well, our next, I just want to first give a warm recognition to our maestra Laura Dumond Kerr, and she is our maestra. Yes, please. If you don't know Laura, she is our high school teacher at Taos High, teaching the Spanish 3 Honors Heritage Language Program. Yes, and we have, if you are in the Heritage Language Program, can you please raise your hand? So I just really want to take an opportunity to recognize that here in northern New Mexico, you know, we were told not to speak Spanish. We were told discriminated against when we spoke in schools. And we are now, so many of our young people are in a process, all of our young people in the back, myself, trying to reclaim our idioma and our language, because our stories and our culture, the way we're connected to the land and to place, is all connected to our language. And so I just really want to respect and admire all the young people who are committed to reclaiming their language and who are studying, and our teachers who are doing that hard work. So thank you, Laura, for your passion and your commitment to our young people. So tonight I have the greatest honor of introducing one of our young storytellers. This is Leopardo. He also goes by Leo Mascareñas. He is a senior at Taos High. He is Taoseño, whose family has lived in the area for hundreds of years, who values the knowledges of his ancestors. He is excited to learn Spanish, his heritage language. Leopardo is creative, hardworking, looks for the positive in whatever happens, enjoys helping others, and believes in the importance of being respectful to the people, his elders, and his community. So give a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Les voy a contar una historia sobre las lecciones de mi abuelo. Escuchen. Mi abuelo le enseñó mucho a mi papá y mi papá me lo enseñó a mí. Mi papá me enseñó a cuidar a los animales y las plantas, tratar con respeto y ayudar a la gente, y cómo ser un buen hombre en esta vida. Mi papá tenía caballos, gallinas, borregos y marranos. Mi abuelo le enseñó a mi papá a cuidar a los animales, asistiéndolos, dándoles agua, peinándolos, cortándolos el cabello y cuidándolos bien. Le ayudaba a su papá cuando iban a State Fairs. Trajeron muchos Blue Ribbons gracias a su trabajo. También iban a rodeos. Mi papá me enseñó a cuidar a mi perro Tico. Lo que hacía con su papá para cuidar los animales, me enseñó a mí con nuestro perro. Lo asistimos, lo bañamos, lo cuidamos y jugamos con Tico. Mi abuelo le enseñó a mi papá a entrar en la sierra. Le enseñó que cada animal tiene su olor. Los cazaron para poder comer. Le enseñó cómo vivir en la sierra para si algún día se pierde, mi papá sabe qué comer. Mi papá sabe qué cosas de flores puede comer para que no le dé sed. Mi papá sabe cuáles zacates puede comer. Le enseñó los modos de los animales que caza. Por ejemplo, ¿sabe lo que comen los pájaros en la sierra, como las grouse y los gansos? Todos los animales tienen su modo. Mi abuelo le enseñó todas estas cosas de la sierra, en dónde buscar los animales y qué buscar para hallarlos. Cuando estaban cazando los venados en Carson, mi abuelo le enseñó las cosas del chamizo y las cosas para comer, para no traer hambre o sed. Mi abuelo le enseñó a mi papá sus modos de los animales en Carson, cómo encontrar sus huellas, sus marcas que dejan cuando comen y dónde se bañan. Mi abuelo le enseñó a mi papá a pescar. Siempre pescaban la buena trucha para traer para la casa para cenar. Estaba muy suave como le enseñó poner los anzuelos y las lombrices y otras cosas que se poner para poder pescar a trucha. Mi papá me enseñó a mí pescar trucha. Me enseñó a ser paciente cuando vamos para la laguna, cuando estamos truchando. Cuando me lleva para la sierra, así yo aprendo de la sierra como él aprendió. Las mismas cosas que le enseñó mi abuelo me está enseñando a mí para que algún día que me pierde en la sierra voy a saber para no tener hambre ni tener sed. Algún día cuando tenga familia yo puedo andar por ahí enseñándoles a ellos cómo vivir en la sierra. Mi abuelo le enseñó a mi papá cómo ayudar a la gente. Le enseñó a cuidar a otra gente como ayudándoles a partir leña y ayudándoles a llevar agua. Mas antes no tenían todas estas cosas fancy que tenemos ahora. Tenían noria y tenían que sacar agua con una olla de la noria para llevar para dentro para ayudarle a la gramita. Otra cosa es que ayudaba a todas a partir leña. Mi abuelo le enseñó a mi papá a ayudar en la casa. Lavaba la ropa con un lavadero que tenía unos roles. Tenían que colgar la ropa en un cordel. Mi papá me enseñó a mí respetar a tus mayores. Me dijo que cuando te mandaban a hacer algo no te tenías que preguntar 2 veces. No más una vez que se hablaban, asista lo que necesitaban. Me enseñó a ayudar a mi hermana Rafaelita cuando necesita ayuda con la escuela, yo le enseño. También mi papá me enseñó cómo cuidar la casa. Mi abuelo le enseñó a mi papá cómo ser un buen hombre en la vida. Ser un buen hombre es tener una buena familia. Nunca le maltrates a una señora, nunca le pegues, la respetas. Cuando papá miró que estoy aprendiendo cómo cuidar la casa, cómo lavar la ropa, lavar el suelo, limpiar la casa, lavar trastes y cocinar algo, me dijo, miran eso en ti, me da mucho gusto porque estás aprendiendo lo que necesitas para avanzarte tú más en la vida. Mi papá me enseñó cómo arreglar los carros, cuidarlos y cambiar el aceite para que algún día, cuando yo esté solo, voy a saber cambiar el aceite. no me van a pescar con los calzones caídos. Porque estoy aprendiendo cómo defenderme con los carros en la sierra, en la casa y en mi comunidad. Paso mucho tiempo con mi papá, me enseñó que mis mayores me dan muchos consejos para que yo siga más adelante en la vida. Aprendo todo lo que pueda para que me aliviane más en la vida. Te quiero con todo mi corazón. Te agradezco por todos los que me has enseñado. Siempre vas a ser mi mejor amigo por vida. Nunca conocí a mi abuelo, valoro sus lecciones para vivir bien. Escuchar y honrar su enseñanza sobre cómo cuidar a los animales, la tierra y las plantas, cómo tratar bien a la gente y cuidar el hogar, para ser una buena persona en esta vida. Gracias.
So when they tell you that our next generation que no quieren hablar en español, no quieren a trabajar la tierra así, están presentes aquí. ¡Que viva la juventud! ¡Que viva la juventud! Speak better than me, Leo. You're such an inspiration. Me vas a llorar. I'm a little emotional right now. I just loved all the enseñanzas. Thank you to your familia for passing down the enseñanzas de la sierra, de la tierra, de la idioma. Thank you, Leo. That was really moving. Sorry. Well, next I have my dearest friend that I want to introduce is our next storyteller, Miss Laura Jagles. Laura is my dearest friend that I met in Santa Fe. She is an enrolled member of Tesuque Pueblo, where she grew up spending time with her maternal grandfather, and many extended family members whose stories and experiences she cherishes. She is also Western Shoshone on her father's side. She taught 7th grade English for 10 years at Santa Fe Preparatory School. She then taught the Tewa language. For 10 years to Pueblo of Poaque K through 12 students, attending several private schools. As well. 5 of her former Tewa students and she were featured in the documentary The Young Ancestors, which followed the teenagers' efforts, much like our own here in Taos, to revitalize their Tewa language. She acquired a BA in English from Allegheny College in Midville, Pennsylvania. I probably said that wrong. And she holds 2 master's degrees from Middlebury College Red Loaf School of English. Laura's poetry and creative nonfiction were published in As Us, A Space of Women of the World, and Yellow Medicine Review, a journal of Indigenous literature, art, and thought. In August of 2022, she began her work in public service as the Constituent Services Liaison for Santa Fe County Commission Chair, Anna Hansen. It's with love that I introduce my best friend, Laura Jagles.
Estamos para equipo.
Sengi-kun. Na kawaritawagin o kawantesuge owinge iweri oma. Hi, just wanted to acknowledge a fellow other Indigenous language instructor in the house. She teaches Tiwa, and her name is Antonita, so raise your hand so I acknowledge her. And as you know, Tiwa is spoken by the Taos-Popo people. And I just found out I have a distant relative of a Córdoba, so I wanted to acknowledge her presence also. So get your ears ready because this is going to turn into like a 7-year-old Laura Kay talking and reminiscing about her Tete Lupi and my tata, my godfather. And it's a historical, creative, fiction, non-fiction piece. I hope you enjoy it. Grandpa's canes. After Grandpa swallowed the last piece of his 5th bua, he grabbed his napkin, put his plate directly under the table and scraped crumbs off of it onto the plate. He put his plate back on the table and began his ritual of folding the napkin over and over, creating a square origami. Sometimes he would put the napkin in his front shirt pocket or in the back pocket of his Wrangler or Levi jeans. I don't know why Grandpa collects those darn napkins, Go'o would say when she found the remains damp, scattered, and falling apart as she took out the clothes from the washer. The bits of napkin clung to everything the way powdered detergent flakes clothes at times. The pieces of napkin transformed into hard blue cotton candy in my 7-year-old mind. I laughed. You laugh at every little thing. Get me another laundry basket. Grandpa pushed back the chair from the kitchen table with his body, grabbing the plate and silverware. Who knows what he did with the napkin? As he rose out of his chair in approval of the meal he just finished, he proclaimed his thanks to God. Gutta, tayo si Gimborimani. Go'o and I replied. Grandpa walked toward the kitchen sink and put his dirty plate and silverware on the counter. He came back toward the kitchen table, grabbing the 7-Up with soda still in it. He walked to the front door, and I knew he was going to sit on the front porch to watch the day sky close. I gulped down the mashed potatoes, pork chop, and corn left on my plate, ate the last bit of my bua with peanut butter on top, and took a drink from my 7-Up to wash it all down. I grabbed my plate, silverware, and napkin. Before I stood up out of my chair, I said, Gutta. Go'o replied. She was always the last one sitting at the table. My sister and I often made fun of her by over-exaggerating the way she would slowly bring a spoon to her mouth. Then we would get a soda can and slowly bring it to her. As I walked toward the kitchen sink, Go'o said, remember, you're going to wipe the dishes after I wash them. I know, I replied as I grabbed my 7-Up can to join Grandpa, who was already sitting outside on the porch. The living watercolor sunset had not begun yet, and in my mind I thought, what will Grandpa teach me tonight? I wonder why he likes 7-Up so much. Why does he eat so many tortillas? And why does he save napkins? Sometimes we didn't talk, but simply enjoyed how the sky embraced the different colored clouds swarming in as they played tug-of-war with the wind currents. As the sky altered its shade to pale blue, I couldn't bear the silence. Grandpa, why do you carry those sticks? What sticks? The ones with the shiny tops. Oh, those ones. Why, they belong to the governor. Are you the governor? Yes. How did that happen? Well, Sometime after the year ends, the old men folk get together and they decide who will be good leaders for the village. They talk about it a long time before the new year. Then, on the day of the new year, all the men meet to talk about the past year. Then they talk about the new year and the hopes they have for the people. When everyone is done, the old men folk appoint the officials. There is the governor, lieutenant governor, sheriff, 4 war chiefs, and 2 church keepers. Grandpa was a fairly modest man, yet I had some pretty idealistic thoughts about him. I thought you were the only leader because you carried those sticks. Grandpa chuckled at my outrageous thought that he could be the only leader. Those sticks are canes. Different people gave them to the old governors before me. Around the year 1620, a long time before I was born, a man from another country called Spain sent the first canes to different public governors in all New Mexico. He was a king. King Felipe is what they call him. His country was in charge of all the Pueblo people at the time. He speaking Espanol, just like the Spanish do in Santa Fe. I never doubted what Grandpa told me about the first Spanish king, and what he said was true. I wasn't into princesses, so I did not ask Grandpa if the king had a queen or daughters who were princesses. The pale blue sky lasted a long time as Grandpa continued telling me about the canes. He started to untie his brown suede work boots when I bugged him with more questions. You talk like the Spanish too, huh, Grandpa? Si, yes, I learned to talk like them. Grandpa paused long enough for me to watch 2 baby ants crawl up the 5-inch slab of cement that formed the porch we sat on. To the ants, it was a towering gray skyscraper that they attempted to scale too often and failed. One got a little too close to me, and I tried to flick it away gently, but I might have squashed it because it suddenly smelled like bananas. After my curiosity with the ants ceased, I looked at Grandpa, and he continued his story. And so, the first cane the king gave us was made of brown wood, and it had a shiny top, like you said. This tiny top was made of silver. It had a cross melted into that silver top. But why was Grandpa talking like the Spain king didn't have those things anymore? Was it because it was really that old? Grandpa unbuttoned the cuffs of his plaid shirt and began rolling his sleeves up so he could feel the cool, dusky air on his forearms. Somewhere along the way, this king was lost or sold by someone, so we don't have it any longer. It is too bad. I could tell that Grandpa was thinking a lot about this cane because he started rubbing his coarse hands together. He finished scratching his right wrist with the fingernails from his left hand when I reached over to hold it. I liked Grandpa's hands, and he didn't mind if I held one now and again. They were rough from planting and picking corn, beans, and watermelon, crooked from weaving rugs and crocheting leggings, but honest and dark from being out in the sun. Playing with the grooves, skin, and lines of a long life I discovered on his left hand, he continued. We have 4 other canes. They are the ones you saw me hold when I gave advice at church. Each one holds the wishes of countless leaders before me, influencing what I say and how to lead the people. That is why they are so special. The canes help me pray the right way. Tewa duty, speaking in Tewa. When Grandpa spoke Tewa, it was as if I could see the words from inside his stomach, feel their way around, creep up his chest, and fly out of his mouth, producing a flock of knowledge. I swallowed them like the bua with peanut butter, and the words stuck. The second cane was given in Mexico, he continued. Mexico? Aren't we in Mexico, Grandpa? No, Musa, we live in New Mexico. And it was called New Spain at one time because the Spanish people were in control of it. Mexico used to be controlled by Spain too, but they got away from that country too. And because the people of Mexico wanted parts or all of the land we live in, it became theirs. They named it New Mexico. When Mexico knew about us, Pueblo people, why then, the men there decided to give us a cane too. Grandpa stopped talking to seek out more memories in his brain. They gave those canes in. Grandpa scratched the balding top of his head, and using his facial muscles, he scrunched his forehead toward his nose. In 1821, I think, the Mexican cane is similar to the Spanish one, and it has a silver top on it as well. Do you make the top shine like your rings, Grandpa? Sometimes. I bet the shiny tops are made like the 7-Up can, but I can't drink out of them. I looked up from staring in wonderment of my association of the cane silver top to my 7-Up can and noticed that the blue hue faded into a soft, warm, yellow-orange color, accented by bright yellow sun rays making their way through the serenely white popcorn cloud formations. Grandpa let go of my hand to untie his other shoe. He turned it upside down to shake out the dirt he collected from the cornfield at his ranch. Even though I didn't go with him to his ranch, I collected similar amounts of dirt from playing in the arroyos with my older cousins. I took my tennis shoe off and emptied it just the same. I watched Grandpa, waiting for his signal to start taking off my socks. He reached for his, and I copied him. We shook our socks upside down and watched dirt and pebbles fall. The dust they made was swept away by the cool night breeze. The sensation of taking our socks off was liberating. Our feet agreed, and they no longer felt the 10 to 12-hour suffocation. Our soles touched the soothingly smooth and night-cooling dirt I wanted so much to put in my mouth. We watched the yellow-orange sunset suddenly turn deep blood red and land in the belly of the hills. But it was summertime, and Grandpa knew I could stay up, and he continued to tell me about the canes. With our feet comforted by the cool dirt, Grandpa began again. The third cane was given by a United States president. Maybe you talk about him at your school. He was tall. He had no mustache, but a dark beard, and always looked so serious in the pictures I saw. He started reaching into his front pocket and said, "Let me see if I have a penny. Here's one." He placed the penny in his palm and pointed to the head side of it. "This is the man that gave us the third cane." I felt the copper with my small fingers and stared at this man I didn't know. He must be a king too, to have his face on a penny. Grandpa didn't wait for comments from me and continued. "Anyway, he gave us a cane that had a black stick with a silver top too. He had some menfolk put the year 1863 on it. He also has his name on it in that fancy writing that you are learning in 2nd grade. Cursive, I said excitedly. Right, that's the one. And it says A. Lincoln on it for Presidente, Abraham Lincoln. Grandpa liked to combine Spanish with English or Tewa with English, but I liked it. Grandpa was curious about the progress I was making with cursive writing because the only thing he knew how to write in cursive was his name, Guadalupe Duran. After I drew my name in the dirt as if he could see it, we saw headlights illuminating the dirt road leading the way to my ko'o and Matma's house. "I wonder who that could be," Grandpa thought out loud. "Maybe it's Mom coming to pick me up," I replied. The truck drove up and parked on the road near the right side of the house, and Tata stepped out. Tata greeted us. "Why are you two both sitting outside?" We're talking, Grandpa answered. Go inside then. Tata and Grandpa spoke Tewa for a long time in the living room while I went into the kitchen to wipe the dishes. The dishes were like building blocks as I stacked plates and cups upon each other. I hummed, "El gato was a cat on a high roof, gato sat. He was la 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 meow meow meow." We were learning this song in music class, and I liked it. No wonder Grandpa called me Musa. Engaged in my little world, I did not realize Grandpa had left with Matman until I finished wiping the dishes and looked into the living room. Tata sat on the couch and said, Laura Ray, okay, no else okay. Come here, sit next to me. Well, Tete, where's Grandpa? He had to take care of some things. What were you two talking about earlier when I drove up? Yung cafe da, Ko'o asked Tata. Do you want some coffee? Yeah, Ma, a little bit, Tata replied. Grandpa was telling me about this man, I urged Tata, handing him the penny. Hey, Wan, did he tell you this man gave us one of the canes that they carries? Uh-huh. He was going to tell me about another one when you came. Spain, Mexico, Abraham Lincoln. He told me 3 already. Tata shifted his seating position on the couch and seemed to prepare himself to tell me more. Well, the Lincoln cane came from the United States, and we have another one from the New Mexico State governor, too. In 1981, Governor Bruce King gave canes to the Pueblo governors at the state capitol building. Maybe you'll visit there someday on a school field trip. Nawa uvi cafe, Ko'o handed Tata his coffee, and he placed it on the coffee table. Ko'o sat in the chair that matched the couch and turned down the volume to her Yankee baseball game, but she still watched it. So, who gave the old governors the last cane, Tata? Taking a sip of his coffee, he began again. Last year, about summertime too, another king of Spain, Juan Carlos, gave the Pueblo governors some canes. There's sure a lot of kings of Spain, he said. Maybe he wanted to be remembered like King Felipe, who knows? But I guess it was a nice gesture. What's a gesture? I asked. A gesture is kind of like a way of doing something nice for others, Tata responded. Tata took another sip of his coffee, then he spoke. Well, another person is supposed to come visit the Pueblos again this year. He wants to offer the governors another cane, so that will make a total of 6 if we only still had the Spanish one. This man offering the cane is one of Cristobal Columbus's relatives. Oh, he's the one who discovered America, huh? Well, no, not really, hon. Pueblos and Native Americans were here already, but he was the first one from another land to cross the sea, explore the land, and he tried to call the land his. But the land doesn't belong to one person, or country, or anyone. It just is. When is the man going to visit? He wants to meet all the governors at San Juan Pueblo. I came to tell Tete about the meeting, and he went to ask the old men if they want to accept the cane as well. So Grandpa will be carrying a lot of canes, huh? If they decide to keep this one too? That's right. By the time Grandpa returned, Ko'o already put me to bed. Later, nearing the end of Grandpa's year as governor, my sister and I watched Ko'o prepare the canes to be given back to the old men to pass them to the new governor. On December 31st, Ko'o took out her new rolls of cloth ribbons. Melinda, get the scissor from the kitchen drawer next to the oven. Melinda handed Ko'o the scissor. Ko'o cut roughly 18 inches off of 10 different colored rolls of ribbon diagonally along the rugged edges. These are pretty colors of ribbon, Melinda assured Ko'o as she put the newly cut ones on the couch and untied the old ribbons from Grandpa's canes. Melinda and I fought over the old ones as Ko'o put 2 different colors together and tied them around the bottom of the silver tip of one cane. I played with the new ribbons I managed to get while she was preoccupied. Nama'a, give me those. She grabbed 2 more from my hand and tied them around the neck of the second cane. By her tone of voice, I could tell she was annoyed. And finally, she took the rest from Melinda's hands and tied them in the bow like the others on the last 3 canes. The next day, January 1st seemed to drag. All the men were at the meeting Grandpa talked about earlier this summer. The first day of January always seemed like a long day for everyone in the village. Ko'o seemed impatient, excited, and worried. They're worse than ladies. I don't know why it takes them all day to decide. Go'o and Matma live just above the Head Start building where the men once held their meetings. You two go play outside and watch for Tete and Matma. Let me know if they are on their way. As we grew older and more aware of the length of the meetings, we would watch from Go'o's bedroom window to see if Grandpa and Matma would leave with the rest of the men. The men who were appointed left last. So if we didn't see them come out early, we would anticipate the return with more excitement than usual. Laura, get a pen and paper so when Grandpa and Matma come in, we can write down the men's names. After Go'o made her list of names with the title of their position next to each name, she left with Melinda. I stayed with Grandpa and Matma watching Wheel of Fortune with Go'o, and Melinda congratulated the new officials' families going house to house. Grandpa, who was still thinking about the day-long meeting, addressed Matma. The Canes will bring those families luck this year for the sacrifices their man will make for a year's duty to his position and our people.
Otra for Miss Laura. All the wisdom sharing of our grandparents, Grandpa and our grandmas, right? All the fierce ones that were with us. And last, but definitely not least, I'm very excited to hear our last storyteller of the evening, who is Joanna Trujillo. And she is from Llano de San Juan, which is the small community just right outside of Peñasco. And was established as early as the 1800s, which is just south of Taos. She worked in the public schools as an educator and a guidance counselor. After retirement, she embarked on a writing journey to preserve the heritage language passed on to her by her beloved mother and grandmother. She is the author of Papas y Frijoles, Cuentos y Poemas para Honar a mi Cultura. So please welcome Joanna Trujillo.
Buenas noches. Voy a leer unos poemas del libro que publiqué y voy a empezar con uno de mi abuela, que era muy chupadora. She was a smoker. Y a veces se le acababan los cigarros y el punchi antes de que tuviera dinero para ir a comprar más. Así que se ponía en un estado de pánico y desesperación. So she'd panic and be in desperation because she'd run out of tobacco and cigarettes. So finally, she would send me to the neighbors to ask for pinches of tobacco. Devuélvete. So she would tell me, oye, mijita, corre y dile a la Vicentita que me mande unos punitos de punchi, ya sean de Golden Grain o de Velvete, de lo que tenga, no importa. Para mí lo mismo es Juana que Chana. El punchi todo es igual. Y dile que si ponen las gallinas, a la tarde le mando uno blanquillo. Anda priesa y ven presto. No te vayas a poner a jugar. porque ya me muero por chupar. Este maldito vicio, estaré cochino. And she cried because she felt embarrassed and that because she had to send me to the neighbors to borrow tobacco. Pinches of tobacco. Listen, my little one, go tell Vicentita to send me some pinches of tobacco, whether they be a golden grain or a velvet, whatever she's got, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. Juana or Chana, tobacco is all the same to me. And tell her that if the chickens lay eggs, I'll send her some this evening. Go, quick, run, and come back soon. Don't stop along the way to play, because I am dying for a cigarette. This darn addiction to smoking is such a nasty habit. And she's the reason I never smoked. When I was a little girl, there were bullies in school. And one day, I didn't want to go to school. So suddenly I became sick. Everything was wrong with me. Yo no quiero ir a la escuela. Abuelita, me duele la garganta para tragar. Siéntate para curarte con salarata. Abuelita, tengo tos y moquitos. Me toca la frente. Pero no tienes calentura. Abuelita, me huele mucho la espalda. Acuéstate para sobarte con mentolate. Estate quietecita en lo que te calienta una garrita. Verás que ahorita se te quita el dolor. Pero abuelita, me huele la muela. A ver, abre la boquita para ponerte el clavo con canela. Abuelita, tengo calambres en la panza. Te dije, baquetona, que no comieras manzanitas verdes de ese árbol. Abuelita, se me está revolviendo el estómago. ¿Por qué estás tan enferma? ¿Qué te pasa hoy? Abuelita, yo no quiero ir a la escuela. ¿Por qué, mijita? Llorando. Porque la Fela y la Fita ya no son mis amiguitas. Me pegan, me sacan la lengua y no me dejan jugar a la gallina culeca que pasó por aquí. A todas las muchitas dejan jugar, menos a mí. Pero qué amiguitas son esas. Yo le voy a dar la queja a sus nanas. ¿Entengas? No llores. Ponte el tuniquito de medio color con florecitas bordadas. No te vas a quedar. Apúrate, para que no llegues tarde a la escuela. Yo no quiero que te quede burra como yo. En mis tiempos no había oportunidad para ir a la escuela. Pero tú sí vas a ir y vas a aprender a leer y a escribir. I don't want to go to school. Grandmother, my throat hurts to swallow. Sit down so I can cure you with baking soda. Grandmother, I have a cough and a runny nose. She feels my forehead. But you don't have a fever. Grandmother, my back hurts a lot. Lie down. I'll rub you with mentolate. Stay very calm while I warm up a little cloth to cover you. The pain will go away in no time at all. Grandmother, I have a toothache. Let's see. Open your mouth so I can apply a pinch of ground cloves with canela. Grandmother, I've got cramps in my belly. You brat. I told you not to eat little green apples from that tree. Grandmother, I'm about to throw up. Why are you so sick today? What's with you? Grandmother, I don't want to go to school. Why, my little one? Because Fela and Fita are not my friends anymore. They hit me. They stick their tongues out at me. And they won't let me play the game of the brooding hen who went by here. They let all the other little girls play except me. But what kind of friends are they? I am going to complain to their mothers, okay? Don't cry. Put on your little pink dress with pink flowers. You are not staying home. Hurry up so you won't be late for school. I don't want you to be illiterate like me. Back in our time, we didn't have the opportunity to go to school. But you are going to attend school, and you're going to learn to read and write. And then I did learn how to read. Dick, Jane, Sally, y Spot.
I like that.
Melita llega de la escuela muy contenta con el libro de Dick and Jane en las manos y grita, ¡Abuelita, mire mi libro! ¡Yo sé leer! ¡Escúcheme! Run, Dick, run. Run, Jane, run. Dick and Jane run. Sally runs too. Look at Spot run. Look at Spot jump. Spot can run and jump. Y abuelita me dice, que mi hijita estaré viva. ¡Qué buena maestra tienes! Tú no te vas a quedar burra como yo. Eso sí que no. Benita arrives home from school jumping for joy with the Dick and Jane reading primer in her hands. Grandmother, look at my book. I can read, Grandmother. Listen to me read. Run, Dick, run. Run, Jane, run. Dick and Jane run. Sally runs too. Look at Spot run. Look at Spot jump. Spot can read and jump. And Grandmother tells me, you are such a smart child. What a good teacher you have. You will not be dumb like me. That is for certain. La Llorona. Dicen que se esconde entre los montones de jaras a esperar a los muchitos que vienen con lacitos a pescar truchas en los pocitos de la sequía madre. Aunque se arrastren de panza, bien calladitos por el bordo de la sequía, están en riesgo de que los pesque la Llorona cuando se empinan a picar los pocitos. Y si se los lleva, jamás los volverán a ver. Cuenta la leyenda que un alma dolorida será para siempre. Un alma en pena que llorará eternamente. A no ser que pudiera llevarse a esos muchitos con mezquinos en las manos, hechos agua, con un montón de truchas ensartadas en jaras horqueteadas. Llévatelos, Llorona, por desobedientes con sus nanas. En vez de partir leña y juntarle hierbas a los cochinos, se van para la sequía a pescar truchas, de esas con la panza colorada. Llorona, si te los llevas, te quitas de andar penando por los ríos y se acabarán los lloridos angustiosos, los gritos espantosos y descansarás eternamente en paz. The weeping woman. They say that she hides behind the clumps of willows to wait for the little boys who come with snares to catch fish in the spring holes of the acequia madre. Even if they move quietly on their bellies along the bank of the river, they are in danger of the weeping woman snatching them away when they are down on their knees poking for fish. And if she steals them, they'll never be seen again. Legend has it that her soul will forever be afflicted with overwhelming sorrow, a wandering, grieving soul who shall weep for all eternity. Unless she could snatch those little boys with warts in their hands, with a bunch of fish strung on forked willow sticks. Steal them away, weeping woman, for disobeying their mothers by leaving their chores undone. Instead of chopping wood and gathering weeds to feed the pigs, they take off to the slower moving flow of the acequia to catch fish with red and orange markings on their bellies. Weeping woman, if you snatch them, there will be no need to roam tormented along the riverbanks. And the hunting cries of despair, the horrifying screams will be heard no more, and your soul will rest eternally in peace. Are my 15 minutes up?
Very good, keep going.
Okay. I wrote a few stories, short narratives as well. And I got some dental work, so I have problems pronouncing my words correctly. And then I never made an effort to shed my accent, so.
Okay, give up.
What accent?
Okay, where is, I wanted to read you Píldoras y otras medicinas. Let me look at them. I apologize, I'm a little nervous. Come and help me.
Yes.
Píldoras y otras medicinas. Oh, it's right here. I'm sorry. 159. Okay. 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 So, esta es la vecina en el teléfono con la otra vecina. Y le dice, hoy era un two-party line back in the day. So yo escuchaba y ahora escribí la historia. Y le dice, Nita, te llamé para platicarte lo que me pasó el otro día. Me escapé de morir. Me pegó un dolor tan fuerte que fui a suerte que aquí estaba la Mary conmigo y ella me levantó pronto para la clínica y de ahí me despacharon para el hospital. Seguro que ya me toca, pensé yo, con tantos años que tengo. Sí, Nita, de la nada me pegó el dolor, fuerte. Esa mañana me levanté con el pensamiento de poner papas a cocer con carne. Saqué la ceniza de la estufa y luego hice lumbre para calentar el café. Pero no quería agarrar vuelo la lumbre. Estaba como pujando. Y salí para afuera a rajar unos ocotitos. Pues, cuando levanté el hacha para arriba, pégame el dolor en la mera boca del estómago. Me dije a la Mary, ¿quiere que llame la ambulancia? No, le dije. Es capaz que se viene todo el farfallón con sus emergencias. Y no quiero llamar la atención de la vecindad. Pues como pudo la pobre, me ayudó para el carro y salimos voladas para la clínica. Y yo con las manos todas tiznadas. Pero no eran buenos doctores. En el hospital pronto me atendieron. Me metieron una mugre por la boca para chequearme el estómago. Me hallaron unas llagas es que del tamaño de un cuadra. Pero la buena suerte es que no necesito operación. Dijeron que con píldoras y otras medicinas me las van a curar. Oh, Nita, ya la fregué. Se me abocinaron las tuercas, las guachas todas sueltas. Y ahí me quedo nomás dando vueltas. Ya te digo, Anita, si no fuera sido por la Mary, me fuera muerto. ¡Y qué rebato! Yo iba bien zurrada. Yo pensé que ya no iba a volver para mi casita. Todo el camino le recé a mis santitos. Bueno, le dije a la Mary, si me toca, me toca. Ahí te encargo a mi gatita. Acuérdate que le gusta la leche calentita y que le rasques la pancita antes de dormir. Y no vayas a andar dejando que salga para afuera en la noche y la pesque ese gato de la Jimena. Parefiero gato. Aquí con este cuento traté de captar la sencillez de la vida. Cuando esta señora se llegó ese momento en que pensó que iba a morir, ¿por qué se preocupó ella? Su gato, la sencillez de la vida. No se preocupó por el dinero, los dinerales en el banco, ni las casas bonitas, ni los carros. La gata. Pills and other medications. On the telephone with the neighbor. Nita, I'm calling to let you know what happened to me the other day. I almost died. A pain hit me so hard that I landed up in the hospital. Fortunately, Mary was with me that day and she took me immediately to the clinic, and from there they sent me to the hospital. For sure it's my time to go, I thought, with all the years that I've got. Yes, Nita, out of nowhere, the pain hit me, sharp. That morning, I had in mind to cook some potatoes with meat. I cleaned out the ashes from the stove, and then I built a fire to warm up the coffee. But for some reason, the fire just wouldn't burn. It was creating more smoke than flames. So I went outside to chop some peach wood. Well, when I raised the axe, the pain hit me in the pit of my stomach. Mary asked me several times, Should I call the ambulance? No, no, I said to her. Then we'll have all the emergency vehicles come out with their lights flashing and sirens blaring, and I don't want to attract the attention of the entire neighborhood. Well, she helped me to the car and we took off as fast as we could to the clinic, and my hands were all smudged with soot. The doctors were very attentive in the hospital. They took good care of me. They took care of me right away. They stuck this thing down my throat to check my stomach. Apparently, they found some sores the size of a quarter. But luckily for me, I do not need to have surgery. The doctors said that they are going to treat them with pills and other medications. Oh, Nita, I've had it. My body parts have worn out and everything is coming loose. and I am limited in my ability to function. And I am stuck going around in circles, not getting anywhere. Nita, I'm telling you, were it not for Mary, I would have died. It scared the heck out of me. I was shaking with fear. I thought I wouldn't be coming back to my house. All along the way, I prayed to my religious statues. All right, I told Mary, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. I'm leaving my cat in your care. Remember that she likes to drink warm milk and will roll on her back so you can rub her tummy just before bedtime. And don't let her out after dark when Jimena's roaming tomcat may become aggressive and attack her. He's such an ugly cat. I just wanted to say, my grandmother, mi abuela usaba mucho los dichos y era muy madrugadora y decía, el que temprano se levanta en su trabajo adelanta. Y una vez estaba la vecina trayendo leña para el portal y me dijo mi abuela, corre mijita, ayúdale a la vecina a traer la leña. Y yo le dije, pero abuelita, ella no es amiga de nosotros. Y me dijo, no le hace, haz bien y no mires a quién. Y cuando yo andaba de mitotera y entremetida, me decía, no te metas en zapato ajeno, cuida tu casa y deja la ajena. Y cuando me enamoré, cuando yo andaba enamorada, me dijo, cuidado, no todo lo que relumbra es oro. Y antes de que te cases, mira lo que haces, baquetona.
This evening. I hope that the food was good and the stories were even better. I just want to thank again SOMOS for the opportunity to curate this wonderful event, and thank all the storytellers and all of your family for coming out and for sharing your wisdom, your language, and all of your heart. It's really meaningful and important. And before you all leave, I would encourage you, Miguel is selling some chile colorado. Joanna has her beautiful book for sale, Papas y Frijoles. There's some CDs. And so please come support your local artists.
Pensando en ti.